think of classic procrastination. And classic procrastination is consciously delaying that which we know we should be doing. So I come home from work at night, I have a stack of bills on the kitchen counter, right? Nobody has to tell me I should be paying the bills. I know I should be doing that. And yet I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And so instead of paying the bills, I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm going to watch Castle. Because I love Castle. Castle fans? Yeah. Love that show. So that is the one that we all think of. But you know, what I've noticed is that is not the most dangerous type of procrastination, because for the most part, we know when we're doing it. I mean, just as an example, how many of you, just by show of hands, would honestly admit and say, yeah, Rory, no doubt about it, I struggle with procrastination in at least some area of my life. I mean, how many of you are willing to admit that? Okay, that's about 75% of the room there. Imagine the other fourth of you will raise your hand later. Apparently, some of you will get that joke later. There's another type of procrastination that I first self-identified, and being that I sort of studied procrastination for a living, right, and we really work to help eradicate it from organizations, I didn't think it would be good to call myself, you know, just this like low-life procrastinator. So I invented a new term, which I really love, because not only does it more aptly describe what I struggle with, it sounds much more intelligent, much more sophisticated, much more academic. So rather than calling what I struggle with procrastination, I invented a new term that I like to call creative avoidance. And creative avoidance really is different because it's unconscious. It is unconsciously filling the day and our lives with menial work or trivial work. And what's wild about creative avoidance is we can be in the office really early, right? Or we can sit down at our desk to get stuff done. And we can be moving really fast during the day. We can be on a lot of conference calls, in a lot of meetings, pushing a lot of paper, answering a lot of emails, doing all this stuff, rushing. And yet when we get to the end of that day, when we look back on what we accomplished, if we're honest with ourselves, we realize that we were nothing more than busy. Just being busy. And distraction is a dangerously deceptive saboteur of a leader's goals. Because so much time sneaks away from us when we don't even realize it. We're not even aware of it. And it's amazing. I loved in the video that we just watched, it said, you know, we all have the same amount of time as Gandhi and Mother Teresa. That's kind of a sobering thought, but it's very, very true. It's like we all have the same amount of time. The question is, what do we do with that time? And the time disappears so quickly, right? Especially with, you know, like the Facebook. You know, sometimes I get on the Facebook and it's amazing. It's like an hour can go by before you wake up and realize, whoa. It really is true. So those are the first two most common types of procrastination, especially for the people that you're working with and you're leading. Now, there is a third type of procrastination that I always talk about, but it really is the one that affects a lot of the leaders, a lot of the chronic overachievers. And you know, some of you are still kind of sitting there and you're like, oh no, Rory, not me. I don't struggle with procrastination. I am hardworking, I am focused, I'm ambitious, I am competent. As a matter of fact, my core competency is competency. And if that is you, granted, there is another type, a new type of procrastination that we've been writing a lot about in the mainstream media, and it's something that I call priority dilution. Priority dilution, unlike the first two, has nothing to do with being lazy or apathetic or undercompetent or disengaged, but it is the same net result that we delay on the day's most important activities or most important tasks because we allow our attention to shift to less important but perhaps more urgent tasks. In other words, this person leads a life that is constantly falling victim to whatever is latest and loudest, not to what's most important. And in a word, it can be summarized as a life of interruption. And so procrastination, in its various forms, this is stuff that we all struggle with. The people that we're leading struggle with this. And creating results in an escalating world where procrastination is pervasive becomes a really important question. And so here's the question, right? If procrastination is the problem, then what is the solution. And I believe that the solution can really be boiled down to one simple word. And I'm going to tell you what the word is, but before I do, I just want to warn you that you might not like it. Because while it is simple, it's not at all easy. And even though it is the truth about success, it's not really popular. And I'm pretty sure that none of you want to hear it, because to be honest, I don't like to hear it. And it all comes down to this one little word: discipline. Discipline. The most successful people in the world have the discipline to do the things they know they should be doing, even when they don't feel like doing them. The most successful teams in the world have created a culture of discipline. Discipline. The discipline to do the things that we know we should be doing. To take the stairs. The discipline is a very universal characteristic of all successful leaders across all organizations, all over the planet, all different industries, all different sizes. Discipline. And I have to tell you, I was very fortunate to learn about discipline at a young age, because when I was just 5 years old, my mom thought I could benefit from some discipline, and so my mom put me into martial arts. And at 5 years old, I started studying martial arts. Well, by age 10, I had become the youngest black belt in Colorado to ever get beaten up by a girl. And I used to fight with my mom because I was like, Mom, I don't enjoy this. I don't like this. This isn't fun for me. I don't enjoy it. And my mom was sassy, okay? And you gotta understand, my mom didn't take any of that stuff. And she would always say the same thing to me. She would always be like, that's okay, Rory. Enjoying it isn't a requirement of doing it. How many of you had a mom like that? How many of you are that mom? I've seen a couple of you out there. Yeah, what a great lesson that we learned as kids, that enjoying it isn't a requirement of doing it. And yet we become these sophisticated adults, we get in leadership positions, and so quickly we forget that all-important truth, that enjoying it isn't a requirement of doing it. Well, where I really learned the most about self-discipline, and truly about success in general, was from sort of a unique place. It was during my college years, but it wasn't really from college. My undergrad was in accounting, and yet when I was at the Denver University, DU, or Dollars Unlimited, as I like to call it. When I went to DU, I got recruited as a freshman to work in the craziest summer program that I've ever heard of. And I worked for a company called Southwestern Advantage. Now, Southwestern has been around for over 150 years. And they do the same thing every year. What they do is they take 3,000 college students, and they would send us. I did this for 5 summers. After finals week, they would send us to Nashville, which is where my wife and I live now. We live in Nashville. And we would go through a week-long intensive training, like a leadership business training. After that week was over, they would then send us out to a state that we had never been before. We would knock on doors to find a place to live. Once we found a place to live for the summer, every morning we would wake up at 5:59 a.m., take ice-cold showers, go out, knock on doors 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, on straight commission, paying all of our own expenses, selling educational children's books door to door. That's a long way of saying I grew up to become a door-to-door salesperson. And I would tell you, I never thought, I never wanted to be a door-to-door salesperson. I was a perfectly normal child. I wanted to sell Mary Kay. The reason that I did this, the reason I got kind of involved with this is because of the money. So the average first-year student in the program makes like $8,500 their first summer. So my first summer, I made just over $17,000, which was a big help. And then each of the next 4 summers, I made over $50,000, 50. So I made over $250,000 in college and graduate school with this crazy summer job. And some of the top students will make over $100,000 between May and August. $100,000. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have teenagers at home? Okay.